Hello, my name is Jim. Welcome to my booktube channel about books, reading and stuff. Aaron Facer has put out an original tag, his first original tag, called the Western Canon book tag. I'll link to his video below so you can see the origin story of this tag. There's only 3 prompts. If you could choose 20 books to represent your reading of Western literature, how would you choose them? What would you look for? Well, I would look on my shelves first to see what I consider to be Western literature. And you might see a few gaps, particularly here and some over there, of my classical shelves. Classical in the sense of 19th century, not classical in the sense of Rome or ancient Greece. Ancient Rome and ancient Greece are big gaps in my knowledge of Western literature. The second prompt is, after choosing your 20 books, what blind spots have you noticed? I have lots of blind spots in my reading of Western literature. As I said, anything from Rome or ancient Greece, I don't have any of that in the 20 books I've chosen. I don't have many poems, I don't have many plays, I just have one play. I only have one author of colour. The 20 authors I chose, only 7 are women of the 20, so most are dead white men and dead white Anglophone men. 9 of the books I've chosen are British. I'm from Britain, I was born in London, so there's probably no surprise. But there's only one work of French literature and nothing from Germany or Spain. I could have chosen a much wider scope by just choosing 20 books. And I think, without further ado, I'll go through their books so you can see in better detail my criteria. Firstly, I'd start with Charles Dickens. I've been trying to read through all of his novels. I've read 10 of the 14 novels he completed, and this is the only author I'd choose 2 books from. First would be David Copperfield, which is I'd choose because it's very accessible, it's written in the first person, and it's probably the most autobiographical of Charles Dickens' works. It's got wonderful characters like Uriah Heep, Mr. Micawber, who always thinks that the future's going to be brighter and is always struggling in the present. And of course there's David Copperfield himself. David Copperfield is a much better representation of a young boy than Oliver Twist ever was. And the second Charles Dickens I choose is this one, his last completed novel, Our Mutual Friend. I wouldn't recommend this for starting Dickens, but if you like Dickens, this is a great book. It's got some great themes, the river, the dirt and everything else. It's an amazing book. David Copperfield remains my favourite Dickens, but this would be second. Then George Eliot. I think most people for George Eliot would choose Middlemarch, but I would choose Silas Marner. I have read Middlemarch, but I found Silas Marner much more accessible, much more enjoyable, and I remember the story much better. It's about a man who moves to the country, and he's a miser and he's hoarding his gold, but one day his gold is stolen, but in the place of the gold a girl turns up, a young girl, and it transforms his life. This is a wonderful story. Then the Brontes. I noticed Aaron also chose Jane Eyre. Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte is very accessible, it's very readable for a modern audience, and yeah, fantastic story. I'd also choose her sister Emily Bronte, but not for Wuthering Heights. I do love Wuthering Heights, but I love Emily Bronte as a poet. I haven't got many poets in my selection. Emily Bronte wrote The Old Stoic, riches I hold in light esteem, and love I laugh to scorn, etc. And I love her poetry. We can't talk about the Western canon without talking about Shakespeare. This is the only book I've got before the 19th century, and for Shakespeare I choose Othello. I love the character of Iago. He's very evil, but he's very scheming, very clever. I like the interplay between the different characters, the whole tragedy of the novel. The character Othello is so consumed by his jealousy that he kills his wife Desdemona for unfounded reasons. It's a fantastic play, and my favourite of the Shakespeare plays, although I'm reading A Midsummer Night's Dream this month as it's Shakestember, so that might change. Then I have Frankenstein from the early 19th century by Mary Shelley. This was a pioneering work in both horror and science fiction, and most people know the story about Frankenstein and the monster he created. More British authors. Thomas Hardy. It was a toss-up between Return of the Native and the Mayor of Casterbridge for me, but as I've got the Return of the Native on my shelves and I don't have the Mayor of Casterbridge, I thought I'd show you this one. I like Thomas Hardy's writing. I haven't read Jude the Obscure, I think that'd be too bleak for me, but I did read Tessa d'Urberville's. Return of the Native is interesting. A man comes back to his native village. There's some interesting characters here, like the Riddler, Diggory Venn, and Hardy is for the countryside what Dickens is for the city, a giant of 19th century British literature. And another giant of British literature in the 19th century is Jane Austen, of course. I saw Aaron chose Persuasion. I'd also choose Persuasion. It's the Jane Austen book I've given 5 stars to. Her character Anne Elliot is older than the usual heroine. She's 27, and the love interest is not landed gentry or a member of the clergy, but it's a captain in the Navy, and in the Navy people can rise quickly, which is unusual for a Jane Austen character and for her times. So that was the British literature. There was a lot. That was 9 of the 20 were from British literature. Moving across the pond to American, there's F. Scott Fitzgerald, The Great Gatsby. I imagine will be on quite a few people's choice. This wasn't a great success when it came out. It became much greater success posthumously after Fitzgerald died, and it came out as one of the early paperbacks, and many schools bought a copy of the paperback and they realised what a great writing this is, The Great Gatsby. It symbolises the jazz age in America and many other things. My favourite American writer is John Steinbeck. I can't hold up his book here, East of Eden, but that would be my choice. East of Eden would also be my choice for the great American novel. If such a beast exists, it covers the vast swathe of America, goes from California across to the east and back again. It touches on Native Americans, it touches on the desire to succeed of Americans. It's a wonderful tale. And also I choose Beloved by Toni Morrison. I realise there's big gaps in my canon here. This is the only author of colour I have. This speaks about the slave experience and the cruelty of the slave experience. Moving on from America and from Anglophone literature, the Western canon. We can't really talk about the Western canon without talking about some of the Russians. I choose Tolstoy's Anna Karenina. It's more accessible than War and Peace, and War and Peace defeated me, so maybe this is sour grapes for me because I couldn't complete it. But Anna Karenina is a wonderful story, and it's not just about Anna. Indeed, the last of the 8 books in Anna Karenina isn't anything to do with Anna Karenina. It's more about Levin and his views of the countryside, and Levin is like a symbol for Leo Tolstoy's own his own ideas, a bit like David Copperfield is synonymous with Dickens in a way. The character Levin in Anna Karenina gives us Tolstoy's thoughts, and it'll be tempting to go also to Chekhov and Dostoevsky, but I prefer actually to go to Gogol and the Dead Souls and the comic nature of Dead Souls and the absurdity of it. I like absurd literature, as you'll see very soon with some of the other choices I've made. And I live in Georgia, which was part of the Russian Empire and part of the Soviet Union, and I choose two Georgian writers. Probably they don't get much mention in the Western canon. My favourite is Noda Dombadze. This is Granny, Iliko, Ilarion and I. It's a very humorous novel set during the wartime in Guria in western Georgia. It's very funny, these four characters, they're very relatable, and they get up to some great capers. And Georgia is also known for its poets. Rustaveli would be the obvious one. Rustaveli is like the Georgian Shakespeare for his epic poem Quixote, or The Knight in the Panther Skin, but I prefer Galaktion Tabidze. He was a poet writing in Soviet times. His famous poem is Carry Chris, The Wind Blows. Carry Chris, Carry Chris, Carry Chris, Patlebi Makrian Kadaka. I could tell it to you all in Georgian. It's one of the few Georgian poems I've learnt, and the sounds, when they're translated, it doesn't work. Poetry is very difficult to translate. You lose so much with poetry. Also in Eastern Europe we have Kafka. Kafka, the novels are amazing, but they weren't finished. America, The Trial, The Castle weren't finished. This is the essential Kafka. I'd choose his novella or short story, Metamorphosis. Amazing. It shows Kafka's humour, Kafka's absurd humour about this person that wakes up, finds himself to be this giant cockroach and worries about how he's going to get to work, and then it's about how he's treated when he can't go and be the breadwinner for the family. And it's humorous on one level, it's tragic on another level. It's very synonymous with Kafka's work, and also with the absurdists, L'étranger by Albert Camus. Aujourd'hui maman est mort, ou peut-être hier. This is about a man who is condemned to death for killing an Arab, although his condemnation is more because he doesn't shed tears at his mother's funeral. It's a great work of existential art. Turkey, I'm not sure if Turkey counts in the Western canon. This is about Istanbul. Orhan Pamuk won the Nobel Prize for Literature. This is his memoir of the city of Istanbul. Istanbul is on the crossroads of East and West, and this is by far my favourite book by Orhan Pamuk. My Name is Red is also worth reading. It's my favourite novel of his, but he has a great way of describing the city of Istanbul. And finally, probably my favourite living author is Margaret Atwood, the Canadian writer. It'd be difficult to choose one book from her. There's The Handmaid's Tale, there's Alias Grace, there's so many, but I think I'd choose this one, Blind Assassin. It's a very detailed novel and there's science fiction elements in it which are part of her work. These would be my 20 choices for the Western canon. This was a great tag. Thank you, Aaron Facer, for tagging me. I'll tag 3 people who I think have read more than me and were not on the long list that Aaron tagged. I'll tag Roz from Scallydandling about the books. I'll tag Anne Novella, and I'll tag Sean, the book maniac. And I'll tag Alan of Big Hard Books and Classics because I said I would. If you like this video, you can like and subscribe below, and I will see you on the next video. Goodbye.